Hey everybody, Angelica here and welcome to my channel. I know if you've been subscribed for a while or at all, it's been a minute. I know you can even look at my channel, see the last time I uploaded was like 3 years ago. I know it's been a minute, but I finally am at the place in my life where I can actually fully commit to what I want to do with this channel. And today's video actually is going to be a new segment within this channel. It's going to be a podcast that I'm actually starting with. Will be a podcast that you can listen to on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, an Apple Podcast. The thing is, I'm gonna segment it into also a part of YouTube. So what I'm going to do is film my podcast that I'm doing, and then I'm gonna also upload them so you can also watch or listen to them on YouTube as well. So with iRose Book Talk, I'm going to be either doing book reviews, book discussions. I'm going to try to have guests on the podcast to talk about books that we have all read together, and we can discuss like the nitty gritties, opinions, and of what we thought about those books. So I'm hoping to get that ball rolling. The first video is planned to be out by September 10th. I will leave a link in the description below to Spotify and to Apple Podcasts, so you can listen to it when it does finally come out. Right now there is just a trailer episode that is out, so that's the only thing that you're gonna get here now. So yeah, I will leave a link in the description below for you guys to follow me on that if you do want to go into the book talk, or to follow iRose Book Talk within that journey, so we can see kind of where that goes from there. The first podcast is going to be about Perfect Chemistry by Simone Alcaraz. It is the first book that I've ever read in the history of reading a book completely by myself. So that will be what the first podcast is about. But now to segue into what this video today is going to be about. And today I have decided I'm going to do a couple of videos. I'm going to try to knock out a couple of video ideas that I have today so I can start the progress of actually consistently uploading on this channel. So with the first video that I wanted to do, I wanted to actually rate 5 out of 5 all of the books that I have read out of all the books that I've read. So I know it's a huge list. I've only owned so many. I have a big pile sitting on my freaking bed right now that I went through. A lot of them are books that I haven't read and are just on my to be read list, which is also another video that I'm going to be doing as well. And I will leave that in the link description below, so you can just eventually, once those are uploaded, you'll be able to find those within the link of this video as well. Okay guys, I fucked up. I filmed my whole video, was editing it last night and doing my thing and stuff, and I look over come back over my desk, and I realize there's still a whole sheet from books that I have read that I didn't rate in my video. Like, I did everything else, completed all that I wanted to do, and I just realized that I did not include that sheet of paper in those books. The Jude, Dead Girls Don't Write Letter, The Extinct series by Abby Glines. I've come to realize this video here is a trial and error. Every video from here on out, I promise you, I will be doing an outline in a format draft of what I want to do with the video, because I feel like I should have done it with a section of Abby Glines' book, a section of Katie McGarry, a section of Simone Alcaraz, so it was kind of so it'd be easier for you guys to follow. Sorry in advance that it's not clean cut like that. I promise every other video that I post on this channel will have an outline in a format draft before I do film it, so that way it's just more cleaner. Because after I edited it and I just rewatched it, I was just like, it's very just sloppy, some of the ways that I ended up transitioning into the books that I was giving and my list overall. So I do apologize in advance for that, but I do hope you guys stick out for the rest of this video. And this is gonna be part 1. Part 2 will be linked in the description below, and you'll be able to continue on with that. So I do hope you guys do enjoy the video, and I promise I will have my shit together next time. Okay, so as we segue into that video here, or into that portion of the video, I'm going to start off, since we're talking about Simone Alcaraz, I am going to recommend first here I mentioned Perfect Chemistry by Simone Alcaraz, which is honestly, it's such a good book. It's the first book that I've ever read by Simone Alcaraz, and it's just like one of those books that I feel like everybody should read. I just think it's easier to show it on my other phone that I have than to try to figure out editing and clipping this. I'm going to get better at editing, I promise, but it's just not my strong suit. So I'm just going to hold the photo here. So we're talking about the first book in that series, which is Perfect Chemistry, and that is the book between Brittany and Alex. I'm going to give that one, honestly, a 4.5 out of 5. I genuinely really enjoyed this book. I just thought it was like I said, it's the first book that I ever read in the history of the world that I just sat there, I picked up the book, I opened it, I started the first page, and I completely finished it, and I was like, oh my god, first book that I read. So I'm going to have that one, give that one a 4.5 out of 5. The next book in that series is Rules of Attraction. That one is also really good. I'm going to give that one a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed that one as well. I actually liked the characters in this one a lot more than I liked the characters in the first book, but that was just my opinion. The first book was still really good, and the first book was genuine enough to the point that it made me cry. And then there's the third book in that series, which is Chain Reaction. That is also a really good one. I'm going to give that one a 3 out of 10. I thought it was really good. I just didn't like the couple as much, but there was good secrets that were unveiled with that one. The second series that I'm going to recommend here on that one, and I shouldn't say that I'm going to recommend because these are just books that I've read, and I'm just going to rate them out of 5 stars. So you might get a book here that I've read that I'm going to rate 2 stars, you know what I mean? So it doesn't mean it wasn't a decent read or that I didn't necessarily enjoy the read. It's just out of all the books that I've read, it didn't hit me like that. It's not the goats, you know what I mean? So the second series that I'm going to give you here is going to be Leaving Paradise and Return to Paradise. I actually like this cover of the couple more, and I like the cover from the first book where they're holding hands. I like that one a lot more. I used to own that one. I don't know what the hell happened to it, so I had to rebuy it. So these are the 2 that I have now. Such a cute story. In this one we follow a couple called Maggie and Caleb, and it's just like both books are about those same couples, and I just thought it was like a really cute read. I just thought the characters were really likable. I'm gonna have to give this one, I'm going to give both of them a 3.5 out of 5 stars. They're both really good. I didn't like them as much as I liked the Perfect Chemistry series, but they were still a really good read for a Simone Alcalez read there. The next one here we're going to do off is After. And I don't like that I'm starting my video off like that because I don't really like After. I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Why is it this big? Why is it this big? For the concept that it is, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna give this one a 2 out of 5. It's not my favorite read out of all the books that I've read here. Next one here, we're gonna do Everything. I thought this was really cute. I thought it was a genuine, I thought the concept was interesting because I hadn't really read a book like that before, and I didn't expect the ending, and I just thought it was really cute. The main character, the girl that you read through, is really likable. So I'm gonna give this one here, Everything. I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5. It got turned into a movie. It's a cute little, YA, novel. It's just like, it's not bad. I would definitely still recommend it. It's just like, it's not crazy. The concept, some people might have been able to predict it. Okay, next book here is going to be Collide. This one is this is more like a spicier romance novel. I'm going to give this one here like a 2.5 out of 5. It's nothing special. It's not a book that when people are like, oh, what should I read? It's not a book that comes to mind when I recommend it to people, So, 2 out of 5. And then we're going to hit up the Abby Klein series here. And I don't even know if these count as series or these count as standalones. They're technically part of a series, but I feel like you could still read them without reading the other books. But the characters, like a friend in this book could be the main character in this book type of deal. But the first one here is, I believe it's Until Friday Night. Yep, that's this one. Until Friday Night is the first book in that series. And then it is, I believe it's Under the Lights, and then it's Losing the Field. I honestly don't know what the order is in these ones. Those books, YA, contemporary, little novels by Abby Glines. Love that bitch. It's like I said, it's YA, so it's not what I'm used to reading by her. I'm used to read a little bit of a spicier genre with her, but it still was cute. I liked it. It just wasn't anything crazy. I'd give those all like 3 out of 5 stars. Like, nothing too crazy. Nothing, like I said, nothing where I'm like, oh yeah, I'd read that again, or I tell my friends to go read it. I much rather read like her Seabreeze series and stuff like that. It's more of a new adult, spicier romance novel, so that's always like my cup of tea. And then we're gonna hit up, if you don't, okay, so I haven't mentioned this, but I feel like I have a few videos already on here of Colleen Hoover, because like that's my bitch. Colleen Hoover, that's my bitch. So the next segment here is just gonna be Colleen Hoover books, because at the end of the day, like, that's that bitch, right? If you haven't read a Colleen Hoover book, I highly recommend you read a Colleen Hoover book. It don't even matter which one you read, but if you're gonna choose one, I remember that I was asking my high school librarian, like, hey girl, you got any recommendations? I had just read all of Simone Alcalez's books, literally all of them. I had read them all, so I was like, and I think I'd also read all of Abby Glines' that were at the school library at that point. So I was like, hey, you got any recommendations? And she's like, I got you, Colleen Hoover, and my life changed ever since then. So thank you, library, high school teacher, or high school librarian. God bless you. Thank you for telling me about Colleen Hoover, because ever since I was 17, 16, I've been hooked. I'm like 18 books in, so she's just a go. But we're going to start off the first book that I have read by Colleen Hoover, which is Hopeless. I don't even know, 5 out of 5. I'm just going to start off with that. 5 out of 5, 100%. It's literally it's so emotional for it being a YA novel, and it's the only YA novel that I feel that I read where I'm like, it punched me in the fucking gut. It's such a good book. Trigger warning, if you need to look into that kind of stuff, definitely look into the trigger warnings with this book. It's just like, I never expected the ending. I never expected the things to go how they did. And I went into this thinking it was going to be like Abby Glines' little romance novels. Because I like Abby Glines' for like, oh, the fun beach reads and stuff. But then you get into Colleen Hoover, and it's not just a romance, bro. It's like a story. There's depth to it. There's like character development. There's like nitty and gritty, raw ass shit when it comes to her writing sometimes. And it's just crazy. I'm going to have to give that one a 5 out of 5. And the next one in that series, which is Losing Hope, I'm going to have to give that one a 4 out of 5. That one was also really good. A lot of people try to say that it's the same book told twice. I personally think that it's a completely different experience reading it through Dean's point of view. I feel like when you read Dean's point of view, I remember crying in this book just as well, because I was like, you go through it, the experience completely differently, and then you learn more about the overall story within these characters, and you just understand everything that these characters went through 10 times more than you did when you just read Hopeless, you know? And then I gotta say, this one here is Finding Cinderella. It's just a cute little novella, you know what I mean? It's about a character within the Hopeless series named Six. Her and some guy just hook up in a closet. I don't know, it's cute. I would give this one like a 3 out of 5. It's not that it's not bad, it's just short. It's like literally what? Like 130 pages. It's super short. It's just like, you know, part of the series. I wish there's more to it. I heard there's is it Finding Perfect, I think, is within the series too, and that's Daniel, which is the guy within Six, is within this book. He gets his own book, so maybe they end up getting a story that finishes. But this one's just, you know, a cute little novella, so I'm gonna give that one a 3 out of 5. And then the next one by Colleen Hoover, I'm going to do Without Merit. This one was actually a cute little read. I know a lot of people do not like this one within Colleen Hoover's books, because when she published this, I feel like it just wasn't what people were expecting at that time. I feel like at this time, there was books like Ugly Love, you know, It Ends With Us, fucking Slammed. I feel like there's other books that people just had expectations within their head, and I just think they didn't get that with this book. But I personally really enjoyed this book. I actually really liked the main character, and I felt like she was just relatable. Even though, like, you know, it was a YA and she was like a teenager and all that stuff, I didn't feel this way compared to another YA that I would read where it felt that it was cheesy. I felt like the stuff that she was going through or feeling were real, and I could just relate more than I, you know, expected to. So I give this one here, did I give it a rating? I can't remember. I'm gonna give this one here I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's not bad. It's not the best Colleen Hoover's books, but it's not bad either. So I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5. And then there's obviously the Slam series. I have Slammed and I have Point of Retreat. I also have This Girl. I just haven't read it yet, and that just tells you how I felt about the series. It's not that it's not good. It's not that it's not bad. It's just that it wasn't my cup of tea with all the books that I read by Colleen, and I did read this a little later after I had read a bunch of her other books too. Even though this is like, I think one of her first series that she's written, it just wasn't my cup of tea. It's not that I didn't like the couple. I felt like the story was, like, the second book kind of got boring, and I was just like, what are we doing? You know, I just felt like we were just following them through their lives at some point, and there was really no plot line to what we were doing. Granted, I should read This Girl and give it an actual rating of the whole series, but for the first book, I'm gonna give it, you know, a 3.5 out of 5. It wasn't bad. I love the poetry within that book and everything. I thought that was really creative. It just, you know, got a little boring with the second book, so the second book, I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5. I'm gonna be nice and give it a 3 out of 5, honestly. And then I feel like we're going to segue here into All Your Perfects here by Colleen Hoover. This is another book that I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. It just was really sad and depressing, but it was still a really good book, and it was a different concept. That's a lot of things with Colleen Hoover's books. None of them are the same. They're all different concepts, and they're concepts I never would have thought of. So I just really liked the idea within this book, and it's raw and it's real, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna give this one a 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, it's sad. There's a little bit of trigger warnings with that one. You might want to look into that one. And then It Ends With Us. I feel like everybody and their moms is reading this right now, even though I read this back like 2019. I can't even remember what year I read this, but It Ends With Us was so damn good. It was so damn good. I'm giving this one another 5 out of 5. It was, I'm telling you, one of the better Colleen Hoover books. I think this is the one that's voted a lot by people out of Colleen Hoover's best books. They're like, oh yeah, It Ends With Us. I feel like Verity is the second one that gets really recommended, which is, so Verity'S Wild. I'm going to segue into Verity. Honestly, and Verity is another one that I'm also going to be giving a 5 out of 5 stars to, because Verity is just like the kind of book that I just didn't expect to. Where is it? Am I not finding it now? There it is. Okay, Verity. I'm gonna give Verity a 5 out of 5. Verity is just fucking wild. That's all I can say. I'm not even, there's no more to say. Verity is literally the most wild book I've ever read out of all hundreds of books that I've read. It's the book that no matter who I'm talking to, if they ask me, oh, do you have any book recommendations? I tell them to read Verity. Or if I'm talking about books, I tell them to read Verity. I'm like, Colleen Hoover, Verity, read it, bro. I'm telling you. The GOAT is to the GOAT books. Verity, read it. 5 out of 5 stars. And then we're going to into Too Late. Ooh. Too Late by Colleen Hoover. I'm going to give that one here a 3 out of 5, maybe a 3.5. I technically haven't finished it. I'm on the last couple of chapters. I just haven't got to the end of it because of the time that I was reading it. Just wasn't a good time in my life to have started reading, so I don't know why I even thought I could. But the concept is, like I said, different than the Colleen Hoover's other books, and like, it's just interesting. It's just like a book I didn't expect from her, so I just feel like it lost my interest a little bit, as well as in the time that I was reading it, but I never got around to, like, I gotta get that book back. I gotta start that book back up. You know, that's always a red flag when I'm like, I gotta start that book back up, and I don't have that feeling when I read a book. All right, next one here is going to be Never Never series by Colleen Hoover and Tara Fisher. Honestly, this one was a really interesting concept, and I love that there was 2 different authors writing it, and I thought that was an interesting concept as well. I would have to give that one here. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5. I really liked the series. The books were really good. Interesting concept. The characters were all right. They weren't my favorite, but, you know, they weren't bad either. So I'm going to give that a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then there's going to be Regretting You by Colleen Hoover here. I'm going to give that one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I like the concept that it wasn't just like a boyfriend and a boy and girl. It was a mom and a daughter. I thought that concept was very interesting. It's just, like I said, not my specific cup of tea. This one here is going to be Heart Bones. I'm going to have to give this one a 3 out of 5. It's not my favorite by Colleen. It's just like a beachy read and stuff, which is like not bad. I don't mind a beachy read. It's just when I buy a Colleen Hoover book, that's not what I want. I don't want a beachy read. I want to feel my skin crawl. I want to feel my heart skip a beat. Or I want to, spoiler alert, where'd you get that magnet, Lily? I want my heart to pound. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't get that from this book, like, at all. And then the next one here is going to be Layla. I'm going to give Layla here, I'm going to give Layla, honestly, a 4 out of 5. I really liked Layla. I know a lot of people didn't like Layla. I just liked I just would have, like, the ending just got me. And I just didn't expect the things to play out the way that they did. And I'm just like, oh, shit. And there's, like, a little bit of a Verity vibes to it with, like, a spooky, you know, psychic thriller to it. So I just thought that was different for Colleen. And I love that it was more of a thriller side, like she did with a little bit of Verity, because I liked that concept of it, because she does write that kind of stuff really well too, just like she writes her other stuff really well. And then next book here is going to be Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. That one was a cute little book. I'm going to give that one like a 3.5 out of 5. I really did enjoy it. I know a lot of people shit on this one because like it's a little love triangle type of thing, but I really did like it. I still would recommend it to read it. I just recommend every Colleen Hoover book, because at the end of the day, I just feel like you're not going to have a bad experience with Colleen. It's just, there might be books here that just don't hit as hard as some other books hit. You know what I'm saying? And then, let's see. I think that's all of my Colleen Hoover books. So let me get back to these ones here. So the next one here is going to be by Jennifer Eccles. I have read a couple other books by Jennifer Eccles, but I don't own those. Like, they're not on me. So the first one here is going to be Going Too Far. I thought this was a cute little read. I read a lot of these books also in high school, so like mind that as well. I know a lot of these, like some romance. That's like was my fucking crack when I was in high school. Like, romance novels were my crack. I loved it. So I still do. Like, I still have a soft spot for romance novels. It's just a matter of my horizon has expanded now to the point that I've read all the Harry Potter books. I started Lord of the Rings. I finished the first book of Game of Thrones. So my horizon has expanded a little bit. But it comes down to the fact that, like, when I was 17, when I was 16, like, this was my shit. And I reread these too a little bit later in life. So I still think they're really good. The next one here, oh, I didn't even rate it. So Going Too Far, I'm going to give this one here, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. It's not bad. I liked the idea. Like, it's not just, this one isn't just like some romance novel or some YA novel or some beach you read. I thought like, it had some, like, depth to it. There was more than just, like, following the characters in their day-to-day life, going home with their mom, with their dad, blah, 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 all that boring shit. They actually had, like, a storyline. The characters were actually doing stuff. So I thought that was interesting. And then Forget You is also by that same author. These are both standalones, they're not a series or anything like that. And this one was, it looks like it's a little bigger, so it must be a little bit of a bigger story. But this one was interesting, like the concept of her, like, waking up, like, right away she, like, wakes up, she just, like, have her memory, or doesn't remember a lot from the night before. So, like, I think the concept of, like, having to go through the book with her and try to, like, remember things and stuff, I like that idea of it. It just wasn't, like, anything where I'm like, oh, I gotta read that again or anything like that. So I would give this one, like, a 2.5 out of 5. It wasn't terrible. It was just like any regular novel, kinda. I mean, I liked the idea where she didn't have, like, her memories and didn't remember stuff, but I feel like we could have read that in another book before. And then we got Stay With Me. This is by J. Lynn, but she also goes by another author name. Here we go. I'm going to show you. I don't know if she started as Jennifer first and then went into J. Lynn. I'm actually not sure. But this one was a cute little book. I think this one's part of a series. It's this one, and then the other one I have is called Wait For You. And those books are also part of a series, but I feel like it's the same thing with the Abby Glines books, where they're a series, but you can still read them as a standalone. This is the other one that I've read, Wait For You. Let me see if this is the one that I'm thinking of. Okay, so this one here is the one that, okay, so this is not the one that I was thinking of, but this one's a really good one too. I'm gonna have to give this one here like a 2 out of 5. Like, it's, like I said, it's like a romance novel. I'll give it 2.5. It's not bad. Like, it wasn't to the point where, like, I stopped reading it or, like, I didn't like it or anything like that. It was just a romance novel. Some college kids, you know, a romance novel. And then Wait For You, I thought was a little bit more of an interesting concept because there was a little bit more to it. But I also did like that one as well. I'm gonna give that one I'm gonna give that one 2.5 out of 5 stars as well, though, because, like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't like, oh my god, everybody read this book kind of good, you know what I'm saying? Okay, and then some more Jennifer Eccles books. It looks like I have a list here. The next one here is going to be The One That I Want. I'm going to give that one here a 2 out of 5. These are just cute, cheesy romance ones that I've read. Winter Kiss, that's by Jennifer Eccles. I'm going to give that one a 1.5 out of 5. Dirty Little Secrets, that's by Jennifer Eccles. I'm going to give that one like a 2 out of 5. The X Games, I'm going to give that one like a 1 out of 5. Love Story, that one was kind of cute. I did like it, but I remember reading it for the first time and kind of being confused. But I feel like that was just me not really understanding her writing style or the way she was writing this specific book, I should say. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5. I did like it. It was a cute little story. I liked the couple and I liked the story behind it. But it was just like, she writes a lot of, like, you know, a little cheesy romance. They're all super cute though. They're not cheesy to the point where I'm cringing or anything like that. Like, all the characters are likable. All the characters, you know, the stories are cute. You know, all the concepts are different. It's not like she writes the same things or the same kind of characters or anything. So that's really cute. You know, those are all super easy reads if you want a cute romance novel here. Next one here is going to be Played in Jason and Kyra by Dana Davidson. I think these are the only 2 books that she's, like, ever written, because when I Google her name, like, these are the only 2 books that pop up, because I wanted to see if she had anything else. these are the same kind of concept. They're not part of a series. They're not like, they're technically standalones, but like the characters from the first book or the first one, Jason and Kyra, they show up at a party and played. So like they're not technically a series, or they're not technically, you don't have to read the first one to read the second one, but it's kind of cool to be like, hey, Jason and Kyra are in this book, you know? So I'm going to give Jason and Kyra, I'm going to give that one like a 2.5 out of 5, and I'm going to get Played 2 out of 5. Like they were still interesting, and I thought it was interesting to read a book with different culture. I feel like I haven't read a book where, honestly, where like the whole book is dedicated to just a black cast, or black, like a lot of people in the school that she went to, and like the people that her family and everybody she was around were all, you know, black people. So I thought that was interesting to like learn more within their lifestyles, and the way that it was written was different. I just really liked both books. I remember me and my friend Jasmine both read these in high school, and they were both really good. And I wish she would have written more, because I remember going to the library and looking for her name and see if she had anything else, but that was all that she had. So they're both pretty good. I still would recommend reading them. You know, different culture, different experience. Definitely check out the books. The next one here is going to be Before You and After Us, and this is going to be by Amber Hart. This is, I would consider this one a series. I feel like you kind of have to read the first book to read the second book, but you also don't have to. I just feel like this one isn't just like, oh, my friend's in the second book and she's getting her own story. It's not like it's like that, but I feel like there was so much with this first story that the characters were all entwined with that you kind of like want to read the first book, then read the second one, so you really understand what that character is going through and why they're at where they're at when the second book starts, kind of deal. But I'm gonna give this one, those two, I'm gonna give the first book like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and then I'm gonna give the second one the second one I haven't actually finished, so I can't really give that one a real rating. I got like halfway through it, but I remember at the time that I was reading it, I just never got around to finishing it. The first book was really good. I remember ending it and be like, oh shit, okay, so it was like not the way that I expected it. But I remember not getting into it, the second one, right away. So I might have to pick that one back up and see where that one goes. The next here is going to be like those Cranked books. I don't know if you guys ever read those in high school, but this is going to be Cranked by Ellen Hopkins. That one was a really good book. It really pissed me off. I got really irritated with that book. I'm going to give that one like a 3 out of 5. It was good. The concept obviously was different. It was a different world that I had never experienced before. And then Identical, I'm going to give that one a 4.5 out of 5. I really liked this book. I remember reading it and being like, oh shit. Like I just didn't expect it at all. It was really good. I thought it was the only book that I had written or read besides like Cranked it was written in that kind of format and style. So I thought that was really interesting. So I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. I really liked Identical. Again, if you haven't read that, I would give that one a read because I wasn't expecting that one. And then these are going to be cheesy as fuck, but the 50 Shades of Grey series, I read those ones as well. I've read the first 2 books, and then I think I started the 3rd book and then never got around to finishing it or anything like that. The first book is obviously just fucking cheesy sex stuff. The second book actually has more depth and more character development for Christian Grey, so I actually liked the second book. It wasn't like bad at all. The first book I'm gonna give like a 2 out of 5, and the second book I'll give like a 2.5 out of 5. Like the second book actually has development. It's not just like, oh, let's go fuck in the red room. It's like, oh, Christian Grey has a past. Okay, let's learn about it. You know what I mean? So it wasn't terrible. Next one here is gonna be Homeboys. I read that one back in high school. It was like a class, like a group read. So you read like the class read it together. That one was really interesting. It was the only book back in high school I think that I'd read besides Jude and Dead Girls Don't Write Letters that I was like, that wasn't just a romance novel. And I thought that was interesting because like I had never really read a book that wasn't a romance novel, and it opened my eyes to the idea that there could be good books out there that just don't have love in it. So I thought that was really cool. And like the concept of this one and the ending and all that stuff, it was just a different aspect of something I've never read before, and I did like it. I would give this one like a 2.5 out of 5. It's just a different read. It's just a different experience. Not something that I would necessarily go read again, or necessarily a genre that I would go pick up again, but I think it was nice to experience a book that I didn't think that I would enjoy and actually enjoy it. Okay, the next book here is going to be Beautiful Disaster, Walking Disaster, and a Wedding, or a Beautiful Wedding by Jamie McGuire. These books were actually a pretty good series. I've only read Beautiful Disaster and Walking Disaster, and I know I said what I said about Hopeless and Losing Hope being like different stories, even though they were the same story. That's not the same thing for this. You don't have to read Walking Disaster, I feel. You can, because I know there's a little bit more with Travis's family, so you kind of understand more about his family, so that way you understand why there's a series about his brothers. But like, dead ass, I'm not even joking, the books start exactly the same, like word from word, like what they're doing, like going into the cafeteria, like everything is exactly the same. So that's why I feel like I never got around to like, I read most of it, and then I got to like halfway through, and I'm just like, this is the same book, I'm bored. Like I'm sure once we get to the ending with Travis's family and stuff, there's gonna be more to it because it leads into a whole nother series. But they were the same book. Like Losing Hope and Hopeless, those weren't the same book. They were different books, even though they were about the same concept. This is literally the same concept, the same book, and written completely the same. So you should read the second book just so you understand more about Travis's family if you want to go read the Travis Maddox, the Maddox series. But if you just want to read Beautiful Disaster, just read Beautiful Disaster and have a good life. But I'm going to give Beautiful Disaster a 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5. It was a good read. I just thought that the relationship was super fucking toxic. I just thought it was that's just like the word I can think of, was just toxic. And sometimes I would be there, I'm like, why is she still here? But it was still a good read. I'd give that a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then next we're going to hop on to Katie McGarry. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of my girl Katie McGarry, but she a cool cat. We're going to start with the Pushing the Limit series. The first book in that series is Pushing the Limit. That one was these books are thick. Like those, I wish I had one with them. I feel like the books is thick. Like she knows she got a lot to say in her books. I'll say that much. Like back when I read this in high school, I think this was like the biggest book I had read at the time, because I was like, holy fuck, this book is huge. I'm pretty sure the Game of Thrones book now, I think, is the biggest book I've read so far. But this was like, I remember reading it, I'm like, damn, this is a big book. But I'm going to give the first book like a 3 to 5 stars. I'm going to give the second one, Dare You To. I'm going to give that one like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. I'm going to give Crashing to You. I'm going to give that one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I actually like this one a lot more than the other two. I thought the concept was cute. The characters were cute. The family was cute. I just liked the book. It was so cute. And then Take Me On, I'm going to give that like a 1.5 out of 5 stars.